In the third and final part of my interview with Montel Williams, we continue our discussion about his medical cannabis company and how he wants to change the negative perception of weed. Here we go.
Here in California, they passed a law for adult use. If we're going to allow people to go out and drink, adults can be able to do what they want to do. And states should get all the taxes that you want. But if you're going to claim that's medicine, then you should not be processing that with butane and caustic chemicals, leaving it on shelves so it has mold, because now we found out recently that they can cause ancillary diseases and illnesses in people who already have compromised immune systems. I can't smoke on some weed that's been sitting in somebody's closet for a month and they pull it out, because if I do so, it's got a mold in it. And my immune system, because of MS and the medication I take, I can end up having some sort of fungal infection go on deep down inside of my organs from smoking this bad weed. So what I want people to understand is that, look, you go down to any place you want, go to a dispensary, you want to get high, you do your thing. But if you're buying because you know your mom or you have a family member who's dealing with any myriad of illnesses that cannabis works for, then you can trust that what you're going to get from me is the purest form you can get.
So if there was this 30, 40, 50-year campaign, and it still exists, of what is bad, and so how do we further change the conversation and the dialogue?
That's one that I'm trying to do, and it's one man in one state at a time. But I am intending to be doing lectures all over the state of California, especially for patients. In every state that I introduce the Lenitive Labs brand into, I intend to come in and try to do some ancillary education. We can't do CMEs because we don't have a licensed
CMEs,
continuing medical education program, but what we can do is a continuing medical lecture. And so I can invite community and people to come out. And when I'm going around the country, you know, I've not hesitated to speak to groups on this issue. And I think one of the things we got to do, my website's going to become very robust. And I intend to get the message out, because unfortunately, you were talking about the opioids. Let's think about people living in poor communities who don't have prescription cards and can't afford to go out and get that Vicodin, and can't afford to go out and get the Oxycontin or the Tylenol with codeine that's $115 for 12, and you know that they're going to get addicted, so they're going to go out in the street looking for something that they shouldn't be looking for.
Well, because they show that all these folks are largely white Americans who are dropping dead in New Hampshire, Connecticut, Vermont. They couldn't get the prescription drugs, and all of a sudden they start going to the streets for heroin. And I've even given speeches where I said, look, if there's an example where racism actually benefited black folks, the numbers don't lie. White doctors do not want to prescribe opioids to black folks thinking we would have to get high.
Right.
And so it actually has kind of worked out in our favor that we're not addicted to opioids to the extent that white Americans are. I said, so why? The one time where racism worked in a health benefit for us.
And now what we got to do is educate the African American community that there are benefits to cannabinoids, and not all of it gets you high. Not every bit of it is there for high. Your grandmother, who has been walking around right now because she's got 3 diabetic sores and she's barely making around her feet, there are salves and balms right now that we know at least help to relieve some of that pain. And that price tag for that is about $500 less than going after a prescription medication. So I think there's a large education process that's going to have to take place, and I'm hoping that this next administration does what it's claimed it's going to do. This is a states' rights issue, and this is also a federal tax issue. So do what you got to do. Tax the heck out of it. I don't care what you do with that, but just make sure that I have access to medication.
So do you believe that by having, let's say, a lot of these former players, individuals with platforms, do you believe that approaching it from the pain management aspect causes a different reaction as opposed to the, look, man, I want to have a club where I can smoke? Because
100%.
Imaging, the reality is, imaging matters. Narrative matters.
100%. And I'm going to say to you that again, it's not like it's a battle. I have no battle against those people. Look, I don't drink at all. I take a medication, and now for 17 years, I have not been able to drink because alcohol exacerbates this medication that I take. So I might have one little glass of wine for a toast with somebody, and then I'll take a sip, put it down. For me, I can use cannabis. Now, right now what's going on around the country is we get more and more athletes that step up, and they do public appearances, and they talk about it, and they're very, very vocal. People are going to start to understand that, you know what, if we look at it the right way, it's no different than going over and taking 7 Vicodin if Montel's going to take 2 drops. And you don't always have to smoke this now. It's not, the product that we are working on is both smokable and edible. So vaporable and edible. So a person can vape it, put it in their vape pen, and they can take it and put a drop on their tongue, and they're going to get about the exact amount titration every time they take a drop. And that's what we're working on. I'm trying to simplify it, because there are times with me, Roland, that man, if I've been working really hard and I'm pushing myself way too hard, I literally can't button my shirts because my fingers just stop working. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I could sit there for 20 minutes to take a shirt off. Sometimes I get so frustrated I will rip my shirts. I don't have time to roll a joint. I don't have time to be dumping stuff into some bowl and trying to work with them. Man, I can't. This is like ignorant. And I've seen so many other patients who can't do that either. So I've been working this from a patient standpoint, trying to make this easier on those of us who need a little bit more help.
Well, actually, one of the things is the final, I've even proposed to our folks at TV One to do a 1-hour primetime special. I called it Weed Inc. because at the end of the day, you still got to be able to market it, but focusing on the business aspect of it and asking those questions: where are African Americans in Colorado, in Washington State, in California? And to your point, if this is an industry, and if we've been on the other side of this industry, the street pharmaceutical side, and been going to prison, we sure as heck need to be on this side now that it's legal.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's something that, again, WAG, which is Women Above Ground, and Marvin Washington, if you go up on Marvin's website, he's working, and I'm working with Marvin along with several others to make sure we get the word out, make sure more minorities, and not just African Americans, but Hispanics and women. You know, and I definitely want, in Baltimore, you know, they've held up, in Maryland, they've held up the licensing process there because they clearly see 100% discrimination in the application process.
Wow. All right, then. Look forward to seeing you on Fox News one day together.
Oh, man, yes. Wait a minute. Let's put that picture now. Maybe Fox ought to consider Montel and Roland.
Right.
On Fox.
Right. Makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me. Oh, and you know, you and I can disagree.
Oh, yes. That's not a problem.
Right. We ain't got a problem with that. But so we're talking about truth.
Right. But not just condemning black folks.
Correct.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Kickstart your day at 7 and get the news you need from the perspective you want. NewsOne Now with Roland Martin. Every weekday morning at 7 on TV One.